Hi, welcome back. And we're pressing on with the weathering of this Bf109E. And you'll remember that we finished up doing the exhaust staining down the side and using these nice Humbrol weathering powders, smoke and dark earth and black, I think that's right, is the other one. And I think that's effective. We're pleased with that. And I've just been doing more research. I've been trying to really rifle through all my 109 references to just see how much these Battle of Britain 109Es did actually weather. And I'm astonished at just how badly some of them did weather, I guess, constantly turning around to fly new sorties back to the UK. And so, yeah, that's actually quite moderate in terms of the side exhaust staining. But what I'm really interested in is the underside. I've had a little bit of a play already, so just ignore this kind of partial attempt here. But what I'm really interested in is to see how they did weather on the underside. Quite hard, as you can imagine, to find pictures of the real thing, showing a number of different aircraft and the undersides to get a sort of representative view of how they did weather. And to that end, one of the publications I did find is this one. I've had this actually for a while now. It's a really good read by William Green, Augsburg Eagle. It's from Messerschmitt Bf109, and I really recommend it if you can get hold of a copy. I bought this second-hand years ago, and it's a really good bit of kit. Some great pictures in here. But what I did notice in here, see, what I don't want to do is move on to the later G models, the Gustav, because I think they were fitted with different Daimler-Benz engines, I think, and some of that representative staining might not actually be authentic for an E. I just don't know enough about them, to be honest, to prove it one way or the other. So I'm trying to find pictures of 109Es, and I did come across this one. If you just bear with me a minute. It's actually a captured aircraft, one of the captured aircraft. Here we go. And here you go, A479. You see, even, I don't know if you can see that, I know the quality's a bit difficult perhaps to see, but you can see there's absolutely extraordinary staining heavily around the underside leading edges of the wings, across the undercarriage doors, not quite as much there, but notice that there is some there. And then heavily down the centre here, and it kind of tapers off, doesn't it, into kind of this kind of much kind of thinner pencil line down here. So I think it's important to try and represent that in some way or other. I don't want to go that far, but I certainly want to produce something like that. But you get this idea of this kind of almost funnel shape going on here with the staining. So I think that's quite a useful picture. It's the only one really I found. So if we get that out of the way, I think one of the things we can do is just, I think let's take some of the smoke initially, just to begin to create some of the outlines for this, and then we can begin to darken it up accordingly. So just like we did before, we can just slowly kind of build up some of the residue before we start to kind of blend it in. And as I said, this is definitely worth taking time over. It's not something to rush at all. Having said that, you can produce some quite effective results quite quickly. But this is just the initial kind of application and trying to cover the kind of broadly the area that we're looking at, or at least initially. I'm going to leave this for the moment. I'll come to that afterwards. So that's really just laying down the pigment to start with, and then we need our blending brush, which is one of these big flat brushes that I've got here. I think this is where it starts to make a big difference, really. start to come down towards that center section down there. You can see how it just begins to blend and fade away. But this is just the outside bit, so this is not the kind of heavy stuff. We'll come to that in just a second. But already, I think I quite like it. I think it's quite effective. I do. And as we said last time, you can make your own mind up and decide how far you want to go with this sort of stuff. But as an aircraft modeller, this is important, I think, to try and nail this particular technique, because oh god, sorry, I do apologise for that, because it's easy to just ignore these things thinking, well, I can't do that, or I can't do it effectively. But of course then it starts to impact the model itself. So we take some of the black now and just want to kind of darken this up a little bit. Try and take this more down the kind of centre bits. So I think when you're applying it, it all seems very agricultural, but it's all in the blending, really. That's the key thing. You often get, I've been trying to think of a way to describe it. It's almost like a sort of a, when you look at some of the pictures, you get this almost pulsing kind of effect with the exhaust staining, where you just get these slightly stronger areas and less so. Now I'm not going to be going a huge amount further with this. Okay. So I suppose at one level it's not for the faint-hearted, is it? You've got to kind of decide the kind of look you're after, and you just keep pegging away at it until you think, no, that's it. And I think as soon as you get there, leave it, stop. I think the danger is you just overcook it and it just looks no good at all. But look, that's I think that's, I mean, that's obviously significantly more dirty than it was. But when you look at the whole model, you know, you've got that significant stain underneath. You've got enough on the top side here. And I just think it just brings the whole model to life. But it's your call. As ever, it's your call. So there we go. I think that's pretty much covered how you can use these weathering powders in terms of the 109E and this particular set of videos. But I hope you've enjoyed it, enjoyed the approach, and gives you a chance to go and have a play yourself and see what you can create. Okay, the undercarriage is always a good place to use pastels and weathering powders, and here we've got Humbrol's Dark Earth weathering powder, which is a very nice, very finely ground weathering powder. So for this little task, I'm just going to apply some Dark Earth to the inner edge of the tyre, just outside of the rim here. And a small pointy brush can help us to do that. Just add a little bit more. That's it. Just got to be patient, just build it up. It's just to create the impression that there's a bit of grubby dirt build up on the tyre, and it just gives that little edge to it once, because we've got to do some of the lighter powders on the rest of the tyre, but this I think is a really good way of just adding a bit to that inside edge. Now, because you've got a dark tyre, I appreciate this is quite hard to see, but do you get that? Do you see what's happening there? We're just building up that brown around that inner edge. And you've got the nice tie tread as well that also picks up a little bit of the brown weathering powder. There you go. So that's all I need at this stage. And then once we've added the other part of the wheel hub, which has been prepped here, we're going to add the other hub. We could do the same thing on the other side, but of course it's not in yet. I just think it's easier to do all that once we've attached the wheel to the leg, which we'll do once we've attached the legs to the aircraft, which will come later. Okay, so that's just a little additional use of these Humbrol weathering powders, and that's the Dark Earth.